Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now the US dollar index is retesting this significant level on the chart, which could have major implications for Bitcoin and crypto. And on top of that, Ethereum is now retesting this important area of support in the short term. So I'll be talking about that later in the video. Make sure to watch to the end. First of all, starting off on the US dollar index chart, also known as the DXY, here on the daily time frame, and what we've seen over the last few days is actually a pullback in the DXY back down towards this level of previous resistance, which is potentially currently acting as new support. And this short-term pullback over the last few days or so has been a result of this bearish divergence on the daily time frame, because we do technically have lower highs in the daily RSI and higher highs in the DXY. And so once again, over the last few days, this has led to a bit of a pullback here in the DXY, basically retesting this previous resistance, now acting as new support. And this test in the DXY will be very important for potentially the coming weeks or months. Basically, what happens in the next few days could determine the next few weeks or months, because obviously, if the DXY actually successfully retests this level and sees a bounce at that level and continues further to the upside, that would be bearish for Bitcoin and crypto. But on the flip side, if the DXY actually fails this successful retest and instead breaks back below this line on the chart, that would be a bearish signal for the DXY, which would be bullish for Bitcoin and crypto. And in case you're new to all of this, if you're wondering why that would be bullish for crypto if the DXY breaks to the downside, first of all, this chart right here is still on the daily time frame, but the DXY is this red line right here, and the candlesticks is the Bitcoin price on the daily time frame. And as you can clearly see on this chart, we have a negative correlation or an inverse correlation between the DXY and the Bitcoin price. Basically, when the DXY is going to the downside, that is usually bullish for Bitcoin, and vice versa. When the DXY is going to the upside, that is usually bearish for Bitcoin. And so once again, for the Bitcoin bulls out there, we would need to see a break to the downside here in the DXY in order to flip much more bullish again on Bitcoin. But for the Bitcoin bears out there, or for the crypto bears in general, we would need to see a successful retest and a bounce in the DXY from this level and not break to the downside in the DXY. Because once again, if we do end up seeing a break to the downside in the DXY below that level on the chart, which by the way, this level is sitting at around 105.6 to 105.7. Basically, if the DXY breaks that level, then that could likely put an end to this short-term bullish relief or short-term bullish trend that we've seen over the last few weeks. And if you've been watching my videos for the last 1 month or so, you would know about this shorter-term bullish trend or short-term bullish relief, mostly due to the RSI, which has been a leading indicator for this bullish price action that we've seen over the last few weeks. Because first of all, the daily Bitcoin RSI has already been trending to the upside. In fact, it started trending back to the upside a few weeks before the price action. And as of right now, technically it has not yet broken the higher low, higher high price structure. Also, if you're looking at the daily Bitcoin MACD, as of right now, this is still looking more bullish than bearish. But with that being said, it is showing very low momentum for the time being and actually moving towards a possible bearish cross, but that has not happened just yet. And just going back to the RSI, once again, a bullish divergence has also played out over the last few weeks, but right now, as I've recorded in this video, and as I also said in my last video, the RSI is getting very close to the point of invalidation for this bullish divergence, because basically, if we start to see a breakdown here in the RSI below this ascending line of support and into new lower lows, then in that case, that would be an invalidation signal for the bullish divergence, basically meaning the bullish divergence is over if we start to see a breakdown here in the RSI. But once again, at least for now, that has not yet happened. So of course, it still remains a possibility that we could see a successful retest and another higher low of this ascending line of support and continue the bullish divergence higher. But even in that scenario, even if the RSI defends this line of support and we continue playing out the bullish divergence, once again, it is still important to pay attention to this DXY, because even if the bullish divergence remains active for Bitcoin, if the DXY actually bounces here and defends that line of support and continues higher, that would be a serious signal to pay attention to, which very much could put some limitations on the price of Bitcoin in how high we could really go if the DXY continues higher. And so that's why I said earlier, for the bulls out there, we would really need to see a breakdown in the DXY in order to become more confident in this bullish trend actually continuing to play out. And just staying on the daily Bitcoin chart, looking at this significant area of resistance resistance still sitting in between around 27.9k to 28.2k. And so once again, that is the important area of resistance to pay attention to, because if we end up seeing a confirmed breakout above 28.2k with confirmation, like for example, daily candle closes above that level, if not flipping that level into new support, then in that case, we would likely head up towards this next area of resistance sitting in between around 29.1k to 29.4k. But once again, we can only look at that higher price range once we first confirm a breakout above 28.2k, which obviously as of right now has not yet happened. But what's very interesting about that resistance at around 28.2k is the fact that there's a lot of liquidations, a lot of liquidity sitting at approximately 28.2k here in the liquidation heat map. And so what this actually means is a lot of positions on leverage exchanges could get liquidated around 28.2k, which means there's a lot of liquidity around that level. And usually when there's a large amount of liquidity just sitting at a certain price level, the price ends up going towards that level eventually. And so that's potentially why there's a lot of resistance, a lot of selling pressure just underneath 28.2k, because basically if we cross above 28.2k, a lot of short positions could get liquidated around that level. And so essentially people are selling just before that level in order to potentially avoid their position getting liquidated. But anyway, if you're zooming into a smaller time frame looking at the 6-hour Bitcoin chart, as I mentioned in my last video on the channel, technically speaking, we do actually have a bearish price target that is active right now on the chart. And this bearish price target simply comes from this symmetrical triangle pattern where the price of Bitcoin has already confirmed a break to the downside below this ascending line of support. And in case you missed my last video on the channel, this downside price target is sitting at approximately 26.4k, which from the current price of Bitcoin as I've recorded this video to that price target, that's roughly around a 4% move to the downside. And the point of invalidation for this move to the downside for this bearish price target and this pattern would simply be a confirmed breakout back above around 27.9k. Because basically if the price of Bitcoin confirms a breakout back above 27.9k, then that essentially confirms a breakout back above this descending line of resistance and also this ascending line of support, both sitting close to 27.9k. And so personally, how I usually trade these breakout movements is, first of all, I enter a short position, obviously if the price is breaking to the downside, with a take profit close to the price target, usually just before the price target, in case we don't actually hit the exact price target. And I also pay attention to other support levels between now and the price target. So for example, if the price runs into short-term support, then obviously I would have a take profit at those support levels as well to basically take some profit off the table, close part of the position in case we bounce at the support level and do not make it all the way to the price target. And obviously I keep my stop loss just above the point of invalidation. In this case, a short position, a stop loss would be above a point of invalidation, but in a long position, a stop loss would be below a point of invalidation. And in this case, if we make it all the way to the price target on a 10x leverage position, obviously that's a 40% profit on a 4% move in the price of Bitcoin. But it is important to understand that that is not personal financial advice for you, because I don't know your personal financial situation. That's just letting you know what I usually do in these breakdown and breakout situations from these technical patterns. And in case you're wondering where I trade, I usually trade over on Bybit, but if you're in a restricted area or if you don't want to KYC, there is also Bitflex as an alternative crypto exchange. And so I'll make sure to leave a link to both Bybit and Bitflex in the description down below and in the pinned comment. If you want to claim some free deposit bonuses, you might as well check that out, especially if you're trading crypto anyway. But anyway, if you're zooming into the shorter term, staying on that 6-hour Bitcoin chart, looking at short-term support and resistance, right now we have a bit of short-term resistance at around 27.7k. And as for short-term support, we have this Fibonacci level sitting at around 27.1k to 27.2k. But if we break below that level of support, then in that case, we have the 50% retracement level sitting at around 26.7k. And we also have the golden pocket area of support in between 26.1 26.1k to 26.3k. And if you're looking at the Bitcoin order books across multiple different exchanges, as for support in the buy orders, we have a lot of support around 26.9k to 27.1k approximately. And as for resistance, we have a decent amount of sell orders in between around 27.9k to 28.1k acting as resistance. But anyway, now getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the daily ETH to US dollar chart. And like I said in my last video on the channel, the price of ETH has started to break to the downside below this ascending line of support. But since my last video just yesterday, we have now confirmed that break to the downside on the daily time frame with a successful daily candle close below this ascending line of support. And so obviously this is another bearish signal that we need to pay attention to on the daily time frame after, of course, we saw that break to the downside below this previous area of support, now acting as resistance in between around 1620 to 1660, which I also mentioned as a bearish signal close to a week ago now on the channel. And as for the daily Ethereum price oscillators, first of all, the daily Ethereum MACD just confirmed a bearish cross, the first bearish cross really since around the middle of August. Obviously, we did have a very slight one in the middle of September, but that wasn't really that significant. And so, like I said in my last video on the channel, this bearish cross in the MACD is obviously a bearish signal showing some more bearish momentum is building up here on the chart. And once again, since yesterday, this has now been confirmed with a daily candle close. And as for the daily Ethereum RSI, technically speaking, we have not yet confirmed the break to the downside in the RSI yet below this ascending line of support or even below this previous low. And so this is very interesting seeing the RSI, at least for now, maintain these higher lows and maintain above this ascending line of support. And so this basically means it's possible we could form a new bullish divergence if the price breaks into new lower lows. Because obviously, as of right now, at the time of recording this video, the price of ETH is very close to breaking into new lower lows in the daily candle closes below some of these previous lows, while the RSI has not yet broken into new lower lows and is currently maintaining higher lows. And so once again, lower lows in the price and higher lows in the RSI is a bullish divergence, meaning it's possible we could form a new bullish divergence if the price breaks down a little further. And if you're zooming into the shorter term, looking at the 6-hour ETH to US dollar chart, right now, as of recording this video, the price of ETH is running into the exact 78.6% Fibonacci level of support, sitting at around 1570 to 1580 approximately. And also, if you're looking at the 6-hour Ethereum RSI, what is very interesting is this RSI on this time frame is sitting very close to oversold territories, very similar to what we saw back here at this previous local low in the price of ETH. And so just going off the 6-hour Ethereum RSI alone, this is basically telling us we have somewhat limited room to the downside, at least in the imminent short term here on the smaller time frames. And so basically what that means is potentially over the next 1 day or so, just in the short term, once again, we're likely going to see either some choppy sideways price action or possibly even a slight bounce from this level of support in order to help reset the RSI. And in that case, if we do end up bouncing from support, then if we're looking at a resistance, this golden pocket could now act as resistance, sitting at around 1600 to 1610. And above that, in a more bullish scenario, we could also find resistance at around 1635 and more significant resistance at around 1660. But in a more bearish scenario, if we actually consolidate sideways a little bit, help to reset the RSI, giving us more room to the downside later on and eventually break below around 1570, then in that case, we could likely drop back down to this low, sitting at around 1530. But once again, you can still make money in crypto, even if the price is going to the downside using things like short positions. And if you want to know more about that sort of stuff, then check out these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make money whether or not the price is bullish or bearish, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.